Boys, we're talking about Menagerie. As you know, it got a really big hit this past week with hotfix 2.5.11. Essentially, the chest exploit, which allowed us to farm for god rolls, has now been fixed, resulting in runs of Menagerie only giving us one weapon, that is per run, versus 5 or 6 weapons per run, or maybe even more, depending on how fast you could actually go back and forth and refresh that instance to re-loot that chest. Now, something I want to bring attention to about the Menagerie. Whether you were a PvP player or a PvE player, it didn't matter. This activity was booming with players playing it, and it had such a variety of weapons that you can farm for. And of course, you can even specify exactly which masterwork you wanted present on that weapon. But despite being able to go in there and specifically go after one weapon with one set masterwork, there was many of us that farmed 30, 40, 50, 100 of the same weapon and still did not get to the exact god roll that we wanted. But that was okay, because this chest exploit made us feel, despite not getting that god roll after so many attempts, it made us feel like our time was being used efficiently. Seeing the large amount of loot after every single Menagerie run, it was rewarding. And if there's one way developers can shoot their own foot, it's by making their player base feel that whatever activity it is that they're doing or investing time in is being wasted. A perfect example of this would actually be BioWare a few months ago with Anthem. Now, Anthem had a lot of problems. Obviously, from its foundation, it was flawed, something we didn't realize until well into in-game, which resulted in us both recognizing that, number one, nothing in the game really makes sense, at least in the earlier sandboxes, and number two, there really wasn't an in-game. But both of those problems were actually being overlooked for a small duration of time upon release of Anthem. You see, guys, we actually got access to an overflow of loot inside of Anthem. I'm pretty sure it was a Friday, but essentially activities were just raining masterworks and legendaries. So essentially, imagine every single strike inside of Destiny dropping an exotic at the end of it. It was a big ordeal. And considering that Anthem actually did not have fixed rolls on their exotics, this hyped a lot of us up that were trying to actually understand what the numbers meant inside of Anthem. But also simultaneously, this gave us an opportunity to perfect builds, which is the whole purpose of playing any looter shooter. But within 48 hours, BioWare had this patched and the scarcity of loot resumed, which led many of us for the weeks following to feel as if our time was being used inefficiently. Instead of seeing a legendary drop every single hour or even less than that, we were seeing legendary drops happening only once every other day. And these were guys that were putting in well over 12 to 15 hours a day. Now, a number of things happened after that. There was some loot exploits. Glad got banned, which was absolutely dumb. There was multiple ways in which BioWare killed off Anthem early on. But despite all of those other things, loot economy was the first one we brought up and was really the first tipping point that destroyed Anthem. Now, Bungie and Destiny is obviously not in the same situation. You can argue and say that Menagerie, despite it now being limited to one weapon per run, is still an excellent path to get specific weapons. When you think about it, Bungie could have been like BioWare and patched it within the week, right? But no, they let us keep this exploit for pretty much over a month, which sent everyone into a farming frenzy. But what this does outline for me when I sit back and I take a look at this is that Bungie is not letting up on making Destiny 2 more hardcore. So overall, is the Menagerie Chest exploit being fixed a good thing? To me, no. Even though it's not as extreme as what Anthem did, it still takes the wind out of that activity. I would be interested to see the numbers for Menagerie and how much they've dropped off since this most recent patch. And even though it is nice to be able to go into an activity and say, hey, no, I want this specific weapon. I want a Beloved. I want a Waking Vigil. That's extremely nice to be able to go into an activity and to know you're going to get it at the end. But like it was with Anthem, if you get used to seeing a large amount of drops at the end of an activity, to take a step back and to cut that loot, not even in half, but down by like 90-95%. No matter how logically sound Bungie's argument may be, if you're used to seeing 5 cookies at the end of the tunnel and now we're just seeing half a cookie, you get where I'm coming from, boys. Regardless, this is something that Bungie is not going to change. I was actually hoping that at the end of every Menagerie run, that we would see like maybe 2 or 3 chests. Or maybe if you completed the run flawlessly, maybe you would have extra chests. Either way it goes, it's a bummer for sure. It's a step back in my opinion. Is Destiny 2's loot economy as bad as Anthem's? Absolutely not. Anthem's is terrible. But just know that the loot economy did not get that bad overnight. Well, fellas and ladies, that's my thoughts on it. Just wanted to put a video together talking about Menagerie and its chest exploit as well as the patch. Let me know in the comments below what you think. At the end of the day, it is still nice that we can go into an activity and farm for a specific weapon, even if it is just for one roll. Well, fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.